So you've got 15 minutes to present. After your presentation, you'll have a seat. Your guests will have to leave for a second, and we'll ask you some questions. You can start now.
Okay, so good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, audience. Today I'm going to present my study, which is called The Possible Improvement of Sitting Arrangement on Students' Self-Perceived Willingness to Communicate in an Adult EFL Context. Well, first I'm going to give you some context so you can understand better this phenomenon. According to Swain and Lamkin, 1995, producing the target language is one of the most important or one of the key elements in learning a new language. So I want you to bear in mind this idea. So now I'm going to give you that the context of this study, which took place in Universidad Santo Tomás, or UST, and more specifically in the subject which is called Inglés Básico 2. It is composed by 16 students, adult students, from different programs. And it's important to mention that the current or the normal sitting arrangement that these students had was the normal that we're accustomed here in Chile, that is 3 or 4 rows looking at the board. And the whole process lasted around 13 weeks. Regarding the research problem, first it was observed a low level of participation in general. All the students were different in different spaces, so they were not interacting even with among them. But what caught the researchers' attention was that students who were sat at the back of the classroom tend to avoid participating in class. They try to avoid always using the language when the teacher asked something related with the contents or whatever that the teacher asked in English. They try to answer in Spanish or not just replying anything. According to Michelini, Pasalacqua, and Cusimano, 1976, there exists a relation between the person's position and the participation in a discussion. So we can relate this idea to the context that I just presented. And then, according to Los Angeles County Office of Education 2000, they proposed that circular sitting arrangements promote the interaction among the students. So it was possible to think that maybe any type of circular sitting arrangement would be very useful or would be very helpful for this context. Then again, with Michelini, Pasalacqua, and Cusimano, they proposed that students sat at the end of the semicircle are isolated. The semicircle sitting arrangement is one type of circular sitting arrangement. So this would be there would be a conflict in between these ideas. So maybe not all the sitting arrangement or not all the circular sitting arrangement are good for every context. Maybe some are focused in a specific context and some for others. And then, according to Dunbar 2004, if you give the students the opportunity to choose a seat into the classroom, they are likely to choose a position where the teacher is in great disadvantage. So it is not possible to give the students the opportunity to choose their position in every class, because that might result in a problem for the teacher. And according to us, Demi-Resin and per phase 2015, the students must be provided with a considerable amount of interactions, and that would be related with the first idea of that the production of the language is one of the most important elements to when learning a new language. So these authors propose that the more chances you give the students to practice to use the language, the more the better the proficiency the student that they will obtain in the language. Well, taking all these antecedents, it was possible to come up with the following research question, which is, how may the sitting arrangement improve the students' self-perceived willingness to communicate in an adult EFL context? Why self-perceived willingness to communicate and not just willingness to communicate? This is because the researcher wanted to focus the study. Well, the study follows a qualitative approach, so this is focused on the students' perceptions and beliefs. So here the focus is on the students' own perception, so they can have a point of view of their own willingness to communicate, so they can realize if they are talking more, if they feel more comfortable, or how they feel about this phenomenon. These are the three types of sitting arrangement that are going to be worked in the study. That were worked. Sorry. The first one is the semicircle. Well, the blue circles are the students or the student chairs, and the red, where here it looks like black, but the red square is the teacher desk. And so here is the semicircle sitting arrangement, the U-shaped sitting arrangement, and the circle sitting arrangement. Well, regarding the research problem, and in order to answer the research question, the general objective that was set for this study was to describe how sitting arrangement may improve the student's self-perceived willingness to communicate in an adult EFL context. And to achieve that, the specific objectives are to apply activities that change the student's current sitting arrangement, and to interpret students' opinion about their self-perceived willingness to communicate according to a different sitting arrangement. So this is going to be achieved through a lesson plan with different sitting arrangement and different instruments that will or that gathered this needed information. The assumptions. It was assumed that there is a positive influence that the sitting arrangement have on the student's self-perceived willingness to communicate. So it is, in simple words, the researcher proposes that there is a positive influence that causes an increase on the student's self-perceived willingness to communicate. Regarding the theoretical framework, according to willingness, following the idea of willingness to communicate, according to Dorney and Clement, 1998, cited in Graham, 2010, willingness to communicate is defined as the predisposition that students possesses in order to interact orally or in written form at a particular situation. And for this study, the definition for this concept is the student's intention or predisposition to orally communicate by using the target language. And sitting arrangement, according to Yale Center for Teaching and Learning, it is defined as the physical organization of chairs, desks, and presentation in a classroom. And for this study, the definition is the structural organization within a classroom regarding the way in which the desks and chairs are placed into the room. to the classroom in this case. Well, the methodology. This study follows a critical paradigm, which according to Kaufman and Morrison 2007, this paradigm involves a change in a needed change in a specific situation. And as I previously said, this study follows a qualitative approach, since it's focused on students' perceptions and beliefs regarding the phenomenon. And according to Fernandez and Baptista 2010, all the qualitative approach deals with all non-numerical data. So since this study works with students' perceptions and opinions, it completely fits the requirements. And the design, well, the most suitable for this paradigm is action research design, in which Burns 2010 proposes that it has 4 stages: planning, action, observation, and reflection, that are going to be explained later. During the procedure, we have the 4 stages previously mentioned. The first stage is in which the change is planned. So here we have the instrument used, where first field notes that were taken the first days of the internship, and then the interview number 1, who was focused on students' perceptions and beliefs about their current sitting arrangement. This normal one with rows looking at the board. Then in the action plan, we have the development and application of the lesson plan, which involves these 3 types of sitting arrangement. Then in the observation stage, we have field notes that during the application of the lesson plan, while the researcher was applying this instrument, the assistant was taking notes regarding the student's behavior during the lesson. And after the application of this was the interview number 2, which was focused on students' perceptions and opinions about the new sitting arrangements. And then in the reflection part, we have all the analyzed part with the information organized in matrices and the triangulation process also. That's going to be explained later. The participant scenario, as I previously mentioned, this took place in Santo Tomás, Universidad Santo Tomás. It was a subject called Inglés Básico 2, 16 students from different areas: medicine, engineering, and psychology. Classes were during the morning from 9:30 to 10:50, and it is worth mentioning that it was a big classroom, or big enough to use different types of sitting arrangements. The instruments were, well, field notes first, according to Fernandez, and Baptista. 2010, field notes are a description of empirical observation, and the field are usually organized in chronological order, since in the stages that I previously mentioned, the field notes were taken with a specific purpose. Then the interview, according to King 2010, it focuses on people's real experiences, that in this case are the previous experiences previous from the change, and then the experience during the change. And the lesson plan, that according to Cox 2018 is like a teacher guide of what the teacher should do during a class and what the students should accomplish. The data analysis techniques. First, we have the field notes. This, according to Given 2008, qualitative data analysis must be made by categorizing. In this case, we have the data collected from the field notes. It was categorized first in the main category. In this case, for example, we have participation according to the sitting arrangement, then the information specifically from the field notes, and the subcategory emergent, and then a code that is created for that specific subcategory. And then for the interviews, the same type of analysis. We have here the participant, and then the information from the interview, and the open code with the corresponding code. Then we have the triangulation process, which here we have the combination of these two matrices that I previously mentioned from the field notes and the interviews, in which we regroup the codes created previously, then a new category emergent, and a conclusion about this emerging codes. Regarding trustworthiness, for this paradigm, we have critical intelligence, social justice, crystallization, and social action. For critical intelligence, in this case, we have the case that the students were isolated from different types of sitting arrangements, so they were almost like they have to work on the same sitting arrangement. They didn't have the chance to experience another one. Then for social justice, the interviews taken were applied to all the students. So here we are, this implies that all the opinions were taken without leaving anyone out of the study. For the crystallization, we have that the assumptions are not 100% sure that is going to be accomplished. So here we have some flexibility on the study, depending on how the data is collected and all the process of the whole study. And for the social action, we have the change, this action itself that is changing the students' context with new seated arrangements. Regarding the findings, we have here we have like a summary of the matrices, in which we have some categories that are linked to another big subcategory. In this case, we have those as an examples. And for the interview part, we have the main categories that are innate participation, sitting arrangement influence, and regular sitting arrangement. Then for the triangulation process, we have more detail. How was the process in which the codes were regrouping with emergent subcategories that are more wide, that includes more codes, and the corresponding conclusion for this action. So it is possible to say that the assumptions were accomplished because there is a positive change in students' self-perceived willingness to communicate regarding the data collected from the interview. In this case, for the second interview, in which the students demonstrated their opinions and beliefs about this new sitting arrangement and this new experience, in which they did interact with among them and interact with the teacher more than in the normal sitting arrangement. The objective also were accomplished, and the research question was answered. One of the limitations for this study, which also threat the trustworthiness part, is the absences, because not all the students were present during the application of the lesson plan. So the second interview was taken only for those who were present during that class, because it has no sense if the researcher take the interview about the new seating arrangement to those students who were not present. And also the tutor helped because she, well in this case was a she wasn't 100% with this willingness to help to carry out the study. This contributes to the area of teaching because we have found here an important element that is part of the extrinsic motivation of the students during the class. And future directions for future studies related to this area would be that how can seating arrangement promote collaborative learning? Because since we're talking about this interaction among students, we can relate it with this new concept. Regarding the metacognitive analysis and the conceptualization of the teacher-researcher's role, well, in my personal case, I think that a teacher, I've changed my mind, and a teacher is not a person that only provides content to the students, but it's someone that have to form students, to give the tools not only for answering the test, but for life. And this is also related with research, how research is connected with teaching, because we are constantly researching about our students, how we can engage our students, how can an activity work with certain types of students. So it's very important for teacher to be a researcher who can contribute more to this area. Well, this is related with making the change with this new contributions. We can make a change on our students' reality. Also, that is the extensive reflection that that comes with a piece of research, because it's not only collecting information, but it's analyzing and reflecting on them. But also in this case, in this practicum, especially with adults, I think I had a more passive role because with adult learners, it's not that difficult to tell them be quiet, because they are not too noisy as kids are, for example. So here I didn't have too much stress to control them. And even though I had only 3 interventions in the practicum, I have observed a lot, and I could learn about my tutor teacher's techniques and how the adult learners behave. Also because most of them were older than me, so it was at the beginning a weird situation, but I can handle it. And I had to change the focus regarding the methodology, because I was used to work with kids, so I tried to use more dynamic activities and in order to engage kids. So now I had to change the switch to work with adults. And regarding my strengths and weaknesses as for this part, I think one of my strengths in the strategy dimension is the lesson plan development, because I tried to develop activities that were interesting for these adult learners. I tried to work on every activity and trying to not falling in getting them bored. And I take care of every detail of the 3 lesson plans that I made for them. And regarding the weaknesses would be the anxiety, because when anything went out of the lesson plan, I felt anxious and I felt nervous because I didn't know what to do. So I think one of my challenges for the future would be controlling this anxiety and be prepared for any change during a class. And these are the references that I used in the presentation. Thank you for this session.